Hello and welcome to Enquire to Choir. My name is Eva and I'm here to help you, fellow choir people. Recently, I got the same question several times. I have a new choir, where do I start? So I'm making a video about this topic. Before anything, before even starting working with your new choir, you as the choir leader have to have the clear idea what you want your choir to be. So define your choir. What kind of a repertoire do you have in mind? What kind of performances? Is your choir just singing, or dancing as well? What are your goals? You don't have to have the whole picture, but it's important for you to have a clear vision. You can't start anything without a clear vision because you're working with people. When you have that, start thinking of how you're gonna get there. In this video, I will suppose you already have your members. You've already done the auditions, but if you have any problems with choir auditions or any questions, there is a whole playlist here on the channel, so be sure to check it out. Not every group of people singing together is a choir. People assume that just because several people start singing the same song, they're gonna sound great. We all wish for that to be true, but it's not. It's not gonna happen by itself. A choir consists of people who try to sing accordingly to each other. They aim for the cohesive sound, so they try to adjust their singing to all of the other singing in the choir to achieve that. I have a big issue with the fact that people often think, oh, first we'll learn the note of a music piece and then we'll work on it. And then we'll work on how to actually sound like a choir. I don't think this is the best way to think, because choir singing is not just singing, it's 50% listening, if not more. With all that in mind, I'm thinking about how I'm again in the position of starting working with a completely new choir. This is the first rehearsal ever. I'm arriving to it, and this is my plan how I would probably do it today. First, I would introduce myself. It's important for a group of people to be properly introduced to a person who says will be the leader. I would say what my credentials are, music credentials and otherwise, especially if you are an amateur. Be honest, I never worked as a choir conductor. I don't have any musical training, but I do have a good ear and I've been in choirs, etc. They'll appreciate it. Be mindful, don't do it in a boastful way. Don't go on an ego trip just because you're the leader, okay? Just state the facts, the necessary facts, to show that you know your stuff and they can trust you. After introducing myself, I inform them about the rules. You should set some rules immediately. It's the first thing you can do to organize a choir. I would tell them when the rehearsals are, when they start, when they end. I would discuss with the members, do they want to break during the rehearsal or not? I think it's a good thing to discuss because you never know. One of my choirs thinks that a break is a complete waste of valuable time. So you never know. If you have a rule about how mandatory the rehearsals are, tell them. And if you want to, share the vision you have set out for this particular choir. If you set the rules, you set the atmosphere to be a working atmosphere. Plus, you gain some authority and you gain your choir's immediate trust. Not all of it, but they start trusting you because when you tell them the rules, they start to believe that you know what you're doing. Then I do a short talk about what a choir consists of. And by that, I mean how they need to cooperate, how they need to listen to each other, that it's not just about singing for themselves, it's about singing well together as a group. You have to say that because if you're working with amateurs and non-professionals, maybe they don't know that. Maybe they arrive to the rehearsal thinking, oh, I'll just sing my heart out the way I want to. They'll appreciate it. I mean, I will appreciate it, but still we have to be comprehensive of what a choir sound requires. Additionally, you have to tell every single one of them which voice they are, what that means, because maybe somebody doesn't know about the terms. If you say to someone that she is a soprano, she's like, well, I don't know what that is, but okay, I'm a soprano. Explain to them, explain to that person what a soprano means. Plus, you have to tell them very precisely where each voice part stands or sits during the rehearsals. It's very important. Don't underestimate the information your completely new choir doesn't have yet. Maybe all of them have already been in a choir before, but this is a new choir and you are setting the rules and they need to know them. When it comes to the vocal technique, yes, start immediately, but there is a way to go about it. I would first give them a short lecture, a very short lecture, about their vocal apparatus. I've done this many times with all of my choirs and they appreciated it very much, because there is no point of you sometime in the future telling them lower down your throats if they don't really know or understand what that means. Try to explain to them how they should be forming a sound and explain all the parts of the vocal tract like that, what their vocal cords are doing, what their bellies should be doing, how to breathe, etc. After explaining all of that, I would start with breathing exercises, because singing is actually really about the breathing. And what people underestimate is the power of synchronicity in breaths. If you teach your choir to breathe together, then it can do wonders for the choir sound. So I would try to sync them up first just with the breath. You can do just the general breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, but in general, just breathe together. But there are also phenomenal exercises. One of them is called 5-5-7. You count the seconds, so 5 seconds for them to inhale, 5 seconds to hold the breath, and then 7 seconds to exhale. It's important for you as the leader to count. If you tell a person count to 5 for inhale, it's not the same 5 as the 5 of the next person. So it's important to sync them up. Plus, this is the first time they can start listening and following their conductor's lead, which is very important. If you have never worked with a choir before, let's just say, to get your choir to actually follow you, not just watch you as a conductor, but to follow you and do what you showed them, is extremely hard, and it's a long process. So start here, count 5-5-7, or even better, or the next stage of the exercise, count on fingers in front of them. So don't give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just show them, for example, inhale, hold, exhale. And with the right hand, you can really count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get it? That's the first conducting technique they have to learn. That's the first conducting experience they'll have. And they will be watching you. Every breath you take, I'll be watching you. This has become the leitmotif of this channel. I am sorry. After breathing, speaking. Speaking is very important, because singing is actually speaking with a pitch. So start with speech exercises. They're very useful to your choir because the pronunciation in singing is very important. Plus, the speech in singing is different to the speech while speaking. So this is the chance to point that out to them. An R in singing is very different than in speaking. To hear a true R, during singing, you have to make it bigger for it to be pronounced well during singing. So do speech exercises, all of them together, with your conducting. Can you see where I'm going with this? I hope so. After all of that, the final vocal technique stuff is done with vocal exercises. But try simple. Use a straw. STRAW, a straw. Search on YouTube for straw vocal exercises and you will be amazed how useful it is. And it's fun. Plus, your choir learns to trust you because They could feel a bit silly to use a straw in front of you without actually having anything to drink. Additionally, I think it's very useful to explain to them the vowels. Explain to them in which position their chins and throats and face should be. Because when you think about it, you can't actually sing consonants. All the tones you're actually singing have a vowel. So if you show them the correct way to sing every vowel, that's a huge thing. They have to be aware of it. Now we come to the repertoire. The first music piece you are going to do with your choir should be in unison. Everybody singing the same melody. People underestimate this, but think about it. If you can get your choir to sing the same melody at the same time, in same tempo, then how could you ever do a fourth-part music piece? Start from the beginning. Single melody for everyone. Pick a song and go through the whole process of learning a new choir piece on just one melody. It's important for your choir to learn the process because there is a huge possibility, A, some of them have never gone through that process. Second, ever said first or A. B, your process could be very different to the ones they have done before. Do all the basics on just one melody. I got a question, do you immediately go for a cappella? And I said yes. Hear me out on this. You should go for a cappella during rehearsals. I'm not saying go for a huge a cappella number. It's about getting your choir to get used to the sound of the choir. If you give them accompaniment immediately and every rehearsal, it could be counterproductive because they actually learn how to adjust their singing to the piano, for example, and not to the other singers. So I'm not saying during the first performance go for the a cappella if it sounds really bad without piano. But during the rehearsals, make them listen to each other by doing a cappella. What's the point of starting with an instrument? Think about it this way. You have to think about the future. It's better to get used to the terrible a cappella singing immediately at the very beginning, because what's the point of teaching your choir they can always rely on an instrument? Use the piano, for example, as help, but not as a crutch. After a couple or several songs sung in unison, what is the next step? What's the step between singing in unison and singing a multi-voice part? One word, canon. Do a canon because it's the same melody but in different times. This is the best way to introduce your choir to polyphonic singing because they have to be in their voice part, holding on to them, but still listen to others singing. It's the best way to make them start distinguishing their sound among all the other choir sounds. Plus, they're fun, they're extremely fun, useful for the choir, easy for the choir, and again, they have to follow your conducting. You, as the conductor, showing them when their part is up, that's a huge thing for the choir to learn that early. By the way, the choir conducting video on this channel is coming up next week, I promise. I've already made it. And finally, go for the two-part voice singing. For example, female voices and male voices. Then go to three-part singing. For example, I recommend female voices plus tenor bass, so that's 3, and or male voices plus soprano alto. In these situations, all of them have a support group. Up to the how many vocal parts you have, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. The point is, get to it gradually. There is no point of jumping if you have the whole way, because it will come back to you at a certain moment. Use this beginning stage as the ground making, ground zero. My general advice would be, don't underestimate any music scores to be too easy for the choir. You can do so much in an easy music piece. You can go for the simplest, most famous melody and make it very difficult for the choir because you will require the correct breathing, correct breaths, correct vocal technique, and very detailed dynamics. This first stage, go through it step by step, really step by step. This is your time to set the base for everything in the future. It's better that you spend a lot of time now on some of the basics than they come to you again in a few years because you haven't done them in the beginning. Or if you don't realize something your choir is doing wrong and it gets much worse in 3 years, it's much easier to give the right information at the very beginning than to correct the wrong information they have been keeping in a few years. Be thorough and be patient. If something is not going right, try to find another way to go through it, to solve it. Try to find another way to solve it, a better way, a different way. Being a choir leader is about trying all the things. Try to find the solution for every problem. But you as the choir leader have to be willing to try and not just get frustrated every time something is not going the way you planned. Just because you had a good advice doesn't mean it was the effective advice for that specific problem for your choir. But if you're here and watching this video, I do believe you're on the right path. And that's it. I really hope this was helpful and that this video answered the question you asked me. If you're wondering where did I get that question, where did I ask you that, I did a video last week called What Do You Want from Enquire to Choir? If you wish to see more from Enquire to Choir, you can check out all the other videos here. And if you wish to see more of me in the future and what I'm about to do next on this channel, you can, I almost said you can surprise. You can subscribe. If you wish to talk to me, you can comment down below, you can email me or go to Facebook. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Conduct well, conductors, and I'll see you next time. Bye!